Hello, my name's Mike Pinkel. My wife Roxanne and I own a small company in Northeast Philadelphia called Creative Designs by R&M Pinkel. We create signs, we do social printing, screen printing, laser engraving, CNC routing, so on and so forth, dye sublimation. Our latest acquisition is an Epson F2100 direct-to-garment printer, which we've had for about a month and we've used for several jobs. We're very satisfied with it. It occurred to us that today, in today's world, we need face coverings um, as a matter of routine everywhere we go. And there's no reason why we can't produce these using our direct-to-garment printer to put a full-color image, um, a school logo, a business logo, anything like that on various colors of face masks. And I should stop right here to remind people that these are not considered medical grade masks. They're not surgical masks. They are face coverings. They're designed for use when you go out to the store, or go to school, whatever the case may be, just to prevent the spread of germs from you to somebody else or from them to you. So now the issue is we have all different kinds of masks from all different kinds of vendors. How do we go about printing this? How is this printer going to know what to print and where to print it? Well, it all starts with a template. And it's the same basic concept that we use with all the processes that we do. But I thought this might be relevant for people today because face masks being so popular and so necessary. I'm going to show you how to create your own template so that you can print something with your printer and have it fall in the right spot on your face mask. Okay, if we have a simple shape such as a square, a rectangle, a circle, a triangle, we can draw that on screen easily enough. But what do we do if we have an odd shape, such as a mask like this? Well, we first decide where's the image going to go. And obviously it's going to fall in here, not on the ear straps. So this is the area we're concerned with. We lay this over a plain piece of copier paper. We take a ballpoint pen and we trace it. We want the outside edge. It doesn't have to be pretty. You just want to make sure you're on the outside and as accurately as possible. This technique works with any number of shapes. We use it with sublimation all the time for jewelry items and things like that, where there may not be a ready-made template. This is what it looks like. Not very pretty, but we're going to show you what's going to happen next. We put it on the scanner bed. Now in Corel, we're going to go to File, Acquire Image, oops, Acquire, and click Scan, and it takes 20 or 30 seconds or so for the image to appear on our screen. Now remember, I put that on a piece of paper in landscape mode. Not that it matters. So that's how it's going to appear here. I don't necessarily want that, so I'm going to turn it 90 degrees and put it over my document. Okay, now to make things easier and accurate, I'm going to go off the screen. I'm going to left click, and drag a line, which is going to help me with my alignment. And I'm going to put it on the other side. And I'm going to come from the top down and do the same thing. I want to know pretty much where I'm going to be intersecting these lines. All right. Now these are going to serve as guides for me. The next thing I'm going to do is trace it. I want the Bezier curve. And I'm going to zoom in a little bit. And I'm going to click. That little box is called a node. And I'm going to go down the other end and click. There's a line between them. It's a little difficult to see right now, but you'll see it later. Click again. And now I'm going to go back to my start point. The shape changes to a little bit of an arrow. Click again, then I hit enter to close the box. At this point, I'm going to edit what I've just drawn. So I'm going to go to the shape tool and I'm going to pick shape and I'm going to click. You'll notice that the shape changes to an S. I'm going to right click, select shoot curve. Now this straight line can be bent simply by dragging it up. I want the line that I'm doing to be outside a little bit of my original scan because it's going to make it easier for me to line up my mask in the future once I'm ready to print. This is a straight line. You'll notice it changed. Right click to curve, grab it and drag it, and a little bit outside. And that's pretty much it. Now, what we're going to do is get our pick tool. We're going to get rid of these lines here. We don't need them anymore. And we're going to click and take our scan off the screen and delete that. We don't need it anymore. This is our shape. We're going to save this as a template. What I do is make sure I incorporate the name of the supplier where I bought it. If this was from XYZ product company, this would be XYZ, whatever the model number is, and I create a template with that name because I might be buying face masks from a number of different manufacturers. They might be all different. So I may have to make templates for each of them. So this way I can make sure that it's accurate. Now, just like the cooking shows that we see, I've already got a finished template. That's the one that I've saved. Now you'll notice that the page is a different size. This page, you'll notice up the top here, it says DTG palette, direct to garment palette. This is a 14.5 inch wide, 16.5 inch high representation of the palette that's on our Epson F2100 printer. I do that so that I'm positive that this is going to fit. Now the other thing that I'm doing, notice how much extra room we have here. Why are we just printing one at a time? Let's do this. I already have it ready to go. 3 of them. All I did was copy it and paste it. The important thing being that they're exactly in the center of the palette and a uniform distance from each other. And this aspect is very important, and I'm going to show you why. I'm going to open. Actually, I'm going to import. It'll be faster. I'm going to take an image. I've already got this set up, but I'm going to ungroup it and I'm going to show you what it looks like to do just one. Now this is centered on the page, so I'm going to hit P, which centers my image on the page. Look how easy that is. Now I'm going to copy it and I'm going to paste it. When I do that, it's right over top of what's here. I want it to be up here. I already know where the dimensions are. So I'm going to center it on my palette that way, and I'm going to center it on that template. Now I'm going to do the lower one. So paste, again, it's right over top of that. Now, it's simple as that. Now what we're going to be doing, we're going to be sending 2 files to the printer. The first one is just going to print this template that we've created. I call that a locator, and just like in embroidery when we're doing applique, it's the same thing. So I already have this file saved, but I don't have this file saved yet. So we're going to click and save the image. Let's make sure we're just on the image, and then we're going to hit Shift. And then we're going to select that one, and then I want to group them. And I'm going to click it off. Those are my images. They're going to be saved as a separate file. But let's test it to make sure that it's going to work. We're going to hit P. Okay, fine. It worked perfectly. It ended up exactly where it should. So let's get rid of this. Let's put this dead center on the screen. That's very important that we save the file that way. So we've already got the template file saved. We're going to save this file, and then we're going to go to our workshop where we have our printer, and we're going to actually print it, and I'll show you how we go about doing that. One thing I want to emphasize, please emphasize to your customers that these masks that we're using are not medical grade, that they are face covers only. They're for casual contact to prevent the spread of airborne particles from one person to the other. It's better than nothing, but it's not medical grade. It's not an N95, but emphasize that to your customers. Another thing to bear in mind is that we're going to be printing these images on black, which means that we need white, as obviously you see in this image. The printer is going to lay down a white underbase, and then it's going to print this, the CMYK, on top of that. Whenever you're printing white with a direct-to-garment printer, you have to make sure that you pre-treat. The pre-treat bonds to the fabric, the ink then bonds to the pre-treat, and you get a nice long-lasting image. If you don't do that, you're going to notice that it's dull and it's going to wash out. So that's very important. Don't skip that step. If we were doing this on a white mask, for example, and we didn't have white in here, we could knock this out and use the white mask. And at that point, you wouldn't have to pre-treat, so you could save a step. But with black or any other dark color where you need that white underbase, don't forget to pre-treat. Okay, we're going to take a break, and then we're going to go to our workshop and go to the next step. Okay, now we're in our basement workshop. This is our Epson F2100 direct-to-garment printer. As I said, we've had this about a month. With this particular type of job, we need to have a way of securing the face masks to the platen. You can't just lay them here and expect the print head to go over it. The print head will move it. Just the air of the print head moving back and forth will cause this to skitter all over the place. So what do we do about that? Epson makes, and a few other companies make, hat platens. They're several $100s, but they'll work just great. You take this platen out, you put the hat platen in, clamp this in its place, and go right ahead and print. And that's fine if you want to invest several $100s. I'm far too cheap for that, and I'm very stubborn, so I come up with my own ways of doing things. When we were screen printing, we started using this material, which is sticky on both sides. Right now it has a liner on the back, and the sticky part is here. What I'm going to do is put this on this platen, and then I'll show you. It's multiple steps, but I'll show you what happens after that. Okay. Now, if you look closely, you're going to be able to see that we have this sticky material on here. I call it fly paper because it's double-sided and it's sticky on both sides. Doesn't hurt the platen. It'll come right off. What we're going to do now is take a sheet of paper. It's heavy paper. It's about 65-pound. 13 by 19. I use it in our laser a lot for locators. I've cut a few inches off of it because it's too long. Now I'm going to very carefully just put this on here, and I'm going to take a squeegee and just stick it down. Doesn't have to be perfect because we're going to be right about in the middle. The next step is to print the file on here that tells us where our face masks go. I call that a locator file. It's very difficult to see, but these are the 3 face mask templates that you saw earlier on our computer, on our design computer. It doesn't look like much, but you're going to see how that's going to print out on this paper. So let's do that right now. We're going to start off with changing our print settings. We're going to turn it down to a low speed because we don't need to do anything really good with it. It'll show up just fine. Now let's dump it to the printer. No, you know what? I should adjust the height first. Okay. All right, now we start it. And whenever the printer's good and ready, it'll begin to print. Any day now. Okay, finally decided to start printing, which it's doing now, and we're going to watch it as it comes out. Okay. All right, these are our locators. Now we're going to do the same thing again. We're going to take some of the sticky paper and we're going to put it on top of here. So while I do that, we're going to take a brief break. Now, if you take a close look, you can see that we have a slight gloss to this. That's the extra layer of this sticky paper that is now covering our template. And we're doing that for a reason. We're going to take advantage of the stickiness to take our pre-treated face mask using the template. If you look in here as close as you can, you'll notice that our face mask just floats in there kind of nice. We don't have to be exact. There's going to be a difference from one face mask to the next. They're not military precision, so we just get it as close as we can. That's why we scale the artwork down, and we aim for the sweet spot in the middle. It gives us a lot of margin for error. And we're sticking everything down to that paper because we want the printhead to float over it without any interference at all. Now, the other thing I like to do, just to be absolutely on the safe side, is to make sure that these ends are taped down so they don't whip around as the printhead crosses over them, potentially causing a strike, which would be expensive and inconvenient. So we're going to fold this all down. This tape comes off of here very easily, so you don't have to worry about that. This sticky material is available from screen printing supplies. It's used for applying to screen printing palettes in lieu of using spray adhesive or even liquid adhesive. Now you can see that we have everything adhered. I'm going to lower the platen a little bit to a setting that I found works. Otherwise, we're going to get a head strike and an error. Now, we've already printed our locator file, so we're going to do away with this file, and we're going to load our artwork. And you'll notice it's a TIFF file. Our Corel file won't open in here. All right, don't worry about where it's sitting now. We're not done with it yet. We're printing on dark material. And we're going to go into layout settings, and we're going to go center. And let's see, we're okay in there. We'll go back to print. We can tweak this down a little bit. All right, we're ready to roll. So we click print, the file is loading, and it's going over to the printer. Just about. Okay, now we're ready to go. We hit start. And then we'll make sure that our printhead clears the surface. It'll kick up an error if we have a problem, okay? So we're going to bring it out. Not unusual. These things are fairly thick. We want to make sure it's as flat as possible. We're going to try it once more before we lower the platen. You want the printhead as close as possible to the item you're printing so that it's a nice sharp image. Okay, now it's printing. You could probably get over here and watch the printhead going over. The first thing it's going to do, since it's a black item, it's going to print a white underbase. So when it comes out, it's probably going to look lousy. But then it's going to go right back in again and print CMYK, and then you're going to notice a beautiful image. It only takes a few minutes to print. This printer is fairly quick. Now, if you take a look out here, maybe move the camera out here. This is what the white underbase looks like. Notice how the image pretty much just floats on the inside of the face mask. That's what we like. Because the sizes vary so greatly, it's difficult to get an overall print and have it look right. You end up with a lot of waste ink. Now it's going to do CMYK. Now look at that image, isn't that gorgeous? We could also have tweaked the settings up a little bit in the print driver to lay down more ink, but I think this is just fine. Now you have to be careful when you're taking these off. You'll notice it might be a little difficult for you to see, but from here I can see that it's really wet because of all the ink that was laid down. So our next step is to cure them, and we're going to take these off very carefully so we don't create a problem and smear the ink. This tape comes off pretty easy and it doesn't damage this double stick tape, so you can use this many, many times. It's very economical. Now you'll notice that a combination of a little bit of work creating a template and then multiplying the template and then putting it in a precise location in your file allows you to plop your artwork in so that everything falls in exactly the right spot. We're going to take these off, we're going to take them over to the flat press, and we're going to cure them. Now there's more than one way of doing this. I'm just going to put this up here for a moment. We also have a conveyor dryer from when we used the screen print that's useful for this, but this is a little quicker, so we're going to do it this way. Now we're going to put some silicone paper on here. The silicone paper is important because it allows moisture to escape. We're not going to use the Teflon sheets that you typically see with these presses. We don't even have one on the bottom here. We don't need it. They not only take away heat, but they also trap moisture. Remember, we're working with cotton. Cotton holds a lot of moisture. And we're working with water-based inks. We're putting water into this, so we need to remove it. We're set at about 340, light to medium pressure, 90 seconds. If you look closely, you'll probably see some steam coming out. It's a little tough to see. Not unusual. It doesn't mean they're burning. That's all the moisture that we've added that's now being cooked off in order to cure the ink properly. Okay. The tone tells us that 90 seconds have elapsed and we're ready to pull our finished product off of the press. You'll notice some steam, again, not unusual. It's moisture cooking off. And look at that, gorgeous. Now, the advantage of our method is twofold. You can go out and spend $700 if you want on a hat attachment and print one at a time, or you can spend 10 or 15 minutes creating a template, multiplying that template so that you can print 3 at a time and spend virtually nothing. You can see we use maybe $2 worth of material to do that. I'm cheap. I like to find ways of saving money, and I'm also stubborn. My wife laughs. She thinks that's a joke, but I prefer to find my own way of doing things rather than going out and spending money that's unnecessary. So now I just made 3 in the space of time that would have taken me to do 1, and I didn't have to spend $700 on a specialty item. So that should do it for today. I hope you have fun with this process. We're having a blast with this printer. It does a beautiful job. And now we're creating a product that is genuinely useful for our community, and it's profitable for us. We're making a fair profit off of these. So please do the same. Take care. One thing I forgot to mention, since we're working with dark items and we're using white ink, we have to pre-treat. And the best way we found of doing that, rather than using something like, well, some people will use this and squirt this onto their item. It's not very accurate and it doesn't really do a good job. we've tried it and we found that the image doesn't really adhere well. So what we do is we just take an extra shirt and we put it in our pre-treater. Because these are obviously much smaller than a t-shirt. And we'll put the blanks in here. Obviously this one's printed. I'm just using this as an example. And we can get up to 10 of these in here. And we typically just roll the ear flaps under to keep them out of the way. Then we would close the drawer, hit the button, and the pre-treat will spray over the whole thing. Then I'll flip them over and do the other side. And the reason I do that, once they're pre-treated and cured, you can't tell what side's been pre-treated. With a t-shirt, it's different. If I'm putting an image on the back, I know which one's the back. So I've pre-treated the back, I cure it, and I'm ready to print. With these things, if I make a mistake and put it down upside down, I don't know what side's been pre-treated. So I'm going to have it, because it only costs us a few pennies, of doing both sides. Then what I'll do is take the mask and bring it over to our heat press, just like you saw how we were curing it. I'll put down the silicone paper, 340 degrees or so for about 40 seconds. I'll flip them over and I'll do the other side. When they come out, they're nice and dry and they're ready to be printed. And once you let them cool down, I'll fan them or something, or just let them sit on a table and let them cool off. I don't like to print them when they're warm. The ink doesn't really stick well to that. And then once they're cool, put them on the locator on the platen, as you saw before, dump the file to it, and print them 3 at a time. Thereafter, they'll be cured. So I think that just about covers it. Thank you for watching.